Let us start. So just to give you a little bit of information about me, I am the founding partner at SongBird Marketing Communications, and we work with small and medium-sized businesses to really help them to break through the noise, get to know who they are as a brand, figure out what the right messaging is, who to target, how to target them, how to connect with them. So you name it, we can do it when it comes to getting your message out and connecting with the right audiences. As you can see, I have Batman in the corner behind me here. Close quarters here, we're obviously working from home, so we get some of those little personal touches, which I'm okay with because that's kind of part of our brand a little bit, I guess. I run strategies for companies locally, internationally, really just helping to get brand awareness, whether it's through media, social media. I do a lot of content creation. My partner is a strategy whiz, and so we kind of just make that work, and we help companies to really build and grow that way. Why social media? Social media is it's one of those things where you kind of say, well, I have a business, I should be on social media, but people don't necessarily know why, and they don't really take the time to set themselves up properly on social media oftentimes. And so you're putting content out there and you're spinning your wheels, and you feel like sometimes you're just yelling into a void. And the idea of social media is that you want to make sure you're using it to connect with people, but you're also wanting to use it in a way that establishes credibility. And as a recruiter, as a staff, if you're building a strategy for your staffing firm, you really want to make sure that you are using it to establish yourself as a leader in the industry, because as it's oftentimes who you know. And when people know who you are, they're going to refer candidates to you. You're going to get higher quality job postings on your roster. There's a lot of different aspects of social media that can be extremely helpful. I mean, we already know that as recruiters, over 90% of recruiters are on social media and they use it. But that's really an individual strategy. What happens when you're a business and you're trying to build something as a team, and you're trying to build a brand as well as the individual brands of all of your recruiters that work for you and on your team. So that's really what you need to use social media for. That's your biggest why, is to helping you to build the brand, helping you to establish yourself as a market leader. I'm stumbling over words like it's Friday afternoon or something. Really want to make sure that you're doing, when you're building your strategy, best looks like. This might seem like it's really obvious, but oftentimes people kind of forget to establish this before they get started, because they say, well, I need social media, so I'm going to get on social media and I'm just going to start posting, and whatever happens is going to happen. Well, I mean, that might seem great, but what are you working towards? How do you know what type of content you're going to post? How do you know who you're supposed to connect with, or how many people to connect with? So your metrics really should define what your entire strategy looks like. You need to figure out what success can work to achieve that. And once you've achieved those initial goals, then you can set different goals and you can kind of move on from there. So a couple of the different success metrics that you can look at are things like community growth. You have to be careful with this one, because community growth can oftentimes be looked at as a vanity metric. I actually just did a video on this for IGTV last week, this week, the weeks run together, who knows. It's definitely a vanity metric, and you have to be careful that you're not focused too much on that, because this is really where it's at. However, you can kind of use your community growth as a benchmark. Brand awareness is obviously a big one, and this is a little bit harder to measure, but you can look at things like reach and impressions. You can look at how many people are talking to you and about you. Those are all different things that you can look at for your brand awareness. And as a company, brand awareness should really always be your number one, the number one thing that you're striving for, because you want people to know who you are, because when they know who you are, they'll buy into it. Whether it's people or job postings or whatever it is. Web traffic is another really great one. You can use social media to really drive traffic to your website. If you're posting valuable content, which we'll talk about a little bit in a little bit, you can definitely drive up those web traffic numbers just to, again, it's driving traffic to your website. It's that next step in creating that lead funnel where you're going to get more candidates, you're going to get employers interested in working with you. Web traffic is a really great one. You can connect with employers on. Maybe you set yourself a goal like you're going to connect with 5 new employers every week, or 10 new employers every week, or 100 new employers every week if you have a really big team working with your social strategy. But those are different things that you can look at. You can build a candidate roster. This could be something that you work with your team of recruiters, where you're saying, okay, guys, we need to connect with, everyone has to connect with 10 new candidates this week, or again, 50 new candidates this week. Whatever your number is, that's a really great way for you to look at social media to try to use that for. And the last one is, this has to do with, you're putting out content. Are people looking at your content, or are you just kind of screaming into a void? So you can look at things like likes, shares, dialogue, so comments on your content are always great to measure, and those are different things that you can look at to really see if your strategy is successful. And different ways that you can count those. There are different platforms that you can use for scheduling and things like that have analytics built in, like Later or Hootsuite, and then you can also use social media platform analytics as well to help you to track those on a weekly or a monthly basis. It's really good to stay on top of that. I would say at the bare minimum, you should be checking on a monthly basis to see whether you're meeting those goals that you're looking for. Because if something's not working, you know you can tweak the strategy so you can really work towards that success. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them, comments, questions. I love to hear it. The next thing you have to think about is the type of platforms you're on. Today we talked about how there's a very big world beyond LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is one of the main ones. These are some of the other main platforms that are out there. But then you have all of these extras, and this is only really a snippet of how many platforms are actually out there that you can pick. Now, the reality is, if you're building a social media strategy for your business, you need to look at different things like resources and budget. Resources, it always comes down to time. Who's going to be doing it? Budget, are you paying someone to do it? Those are all questions that you have to ask yourself before you actually say, okay, we're going to be on 5 different platforms. Most people will not be able to manage being on 5 platforms, because you want to make sure that if you're going to be on 5 platforms, you're posting consistently, you're doing great content for each of the platforms, and you're really looking to build a community on each platform. Whereas if you don't have time to do that on 5, pick one platform and do it really, really, really well. And then you can start adding platforms as you feel more comfortable. Obviously, the main one that you should definitely look at is LinkedIn. But I mean, there are others that you can explore as well. Things like Instagram, if you're trying to connect with creatives and creative businesses. Twitter is a really great one if you're trying to connect with within companies within the education industry or other professional services. So there are pros and cons of each platform for sure. Obviously, things like DeviantArt, Influencer, and things like that are not ones that you would want to consider, but you can definitely utilize those platforms if you're doing research to try to connect with candidates, because it gives you a really good sense of who the candidates are that you're trying to work with as well. And so it gives you a big picture of things. Any questions about platforms? Pop them in. Otherwise, we will talk about building a content strategy. So here is where we're at. You've decided you're going to be on LinkedIn and Instagram. You've set up your profile. Now what? You know, you could every day kind of try to fly by the seat of your pants and say, okay, I have to post on Instagram today. Oh man, I don't know what to post. Or I have to post on LinkedIn today. I don't know what to post. You know, so the idea of building a content strategy is to really give you a roadmap so that you can say what you want to post, when you want to post it, and how you want to post it. Those are kind of the three things that you're really going to look at. And kind of the pillars, you could say, of your content strategy would be your messaging, which really indicates who you are as a brand. And it really kind of gives you some wording that you can use on a regular basis, and you can pull from that messaging when you're trying to create social media content. Your content type, you know, think about things like blogs, you can do videos, you can do images. There are tons of things you can do like infographics and, you know, ebooks, and so many different ideas that you can utilize when you're trying to think of content that you can share. Obviously, there are different types of content that are going to help you to reach different types of goals. So for example, if you want to create a regular blog, linking back to your blog is going to help increase web traffic. You know, those are the different types of things. Brand awareness would be great if you could have branded images that people might be sharing. Maybe it's a quote image or it's an infographic that has your logo on it and your website, so that when people share it because they find it interesting or they like it, then your brand is out there for everyone to see because someone else is sharing the content. And not only does that increase your brand awareness, but it also then gives you added credibility because someone else has said, hey, this content is worth checking out. And the last thing to you want to make sure that a personality is a tone, the types of wording you're using, uh, all the things that you want to when you're building your content strategy. This one is most consistently and at the best times. And this is kind of the greatest debate next to the toilet paper debate. You know, don't fight me on this, but I say that the toilet paper should be flipped on the outside, unless you have a cat that likes to pull your toilet paper out. But, you know, this is really indicative of even the social media debate. So you can ask 10 different people when they should post, and they'll give you 10 different answers. And so, you know, you really want to make sure that you're taking the time to get to know who your audience is, best for your audience, because when you do that, then you'll be able to figure out exactly when you should post and how often. Now, if you're just getting started, there are a couple kind of rules of thumb, best practices, whatever you want to call it, that might be helpful for you to figure out what your strategy is in the beginning. You know, so you can look at, if you have Facebook, posting 3 times per week, Instagram 3 times per week, Twitter, you need to be really active. You should be posting 2 to 5 times per day. LinkedIn, you should be posting 3 to 5 times per week. Good way to look at starting your strategy to really put things together for you. And then you can, again, it's that trial and error to figure out, should I be posting more? I doubt you'll need to post less, because, you know, you don't want to post too little, because then your audience won't ever find you. You know, if you think a tweet, you know, the lifespan of a tweet is about 18 minutes. And so if you're only posting once per day, or even, you know, once a week, when are people even going to find you? So you have to look at the platform, you have to look at your audience and their needs, and then you look at your goals, and then you build your strategy as best you can, and you tweak it when you see what's working and what's not. The next thing you need to look at is what you're posting. And you always want to make sure you're providing value. Your audience is going to want 3 things from you as a staffing firm. Number 1, they're going to want to see job postings. Obviously, candidates are going to want to see that. Number 2, they're going to want to learn something new. And number 3, to hear about new trends and innovation. So learning something new, this is a really great way for you to connect with candidates. if you're sharing thought leadership and you're sharing those, you know, educational golden nuggets that they can then pull out in their job interviews, then it's a really great way for you to provide value for them, and they'll want to connect with you more. Hearing about new trends and innovation, you can talk about the different industries that you're in. Again, this is really helpful information for candidates, but it also shows employers that you know what you're talking about, and that you have information, and that you are a worthwhile person to connect with, or a worthwhile business to connect with. And a little thing that you can try that would be really great, think lead magnets. And a lead magnet is something that you would share in exchange giving you their contact information. And so think about sharing things like maybe an ebook. It could be for candidates if you're looking to build your candidate roster. You could do even a guide to negotiating the best salary, or a guide to what you can ask for benefits. You know, there's lots of different ways that you can provide value for someone that they'll want to then connect with them on a deeper basis. And so the last thing that I want to leave you with today is when you're doing social media, regardless of whether you're doing LinkedIn or you're doing Instagram or whatever platform you're doing, you just need to make sure that you're being social. You know, the word social is in social media for a reason. It's there for you to create dialogue. It's there for you to connect with other people. We're in a time right now where everything has been taken digital, including events like this. When people are really just looking, you know, but you healthy mix of those three things that we talked about, so that it's not a constant sale all the time. You want to make sure that you're showing some personality. We talked about the brand and the brand personality, so make sure you put that in there. Are you a professional? Are you a little bit, you kind of like humor a little bit? You know, what are you like as a brand? And you want to make sure that you show that in your social media content. Don't ignore the comments that come in. You know, you want to make sure that you're getting in there at least once a day, but hopefully if you have more time, get in there a couple times a day to really check to see the comments that are coming in, making sure that you're responding to people, making sure that you're dealing with any questions or any issues that arise in a timely manner. We're in a time right now where everybody expects things, and they expect them so quickly that social media makes it possible for that almost spontaneous and instantaneous interaction with brands. And staffing firms are not exempt from that. And so you need to make sure that you're really staying on top of what's happening within your social channels. You want to make sure that you're absolutely engaging daily. If that means scheduling 15 minutes a day where you go in and exactly, you know, who to follow, and you make a couple of comments, you share a few things, you like some comments, you congratulate people, set that 15 minutes or 30 minutes, whatever it is, do your social engagement, and then move on. Social media is important, but it's also not the only thing that you're doing in your business. So you want to make sure that you're building it into the strategy that you have. The other thing that you want to make sure that you're doing is that you're working as a team. As a staffing firm, that you likely have a number of recruiters working for you. You have a team that's working with you to help you run the business. So you want to make sure that you're really engaging everybody on a regular basis. Bring them into the social strategy, have them sharing your content on a regular basis. You'll see increased visibility, you'll see increased reach, and you'll find that your team just feels really invested in what you're doing as a company, because you're really bringing them on to that public voice that you're sharing on social media. So